Here's what's coming up on today's show.
Where are you going to pull resources from? How are you going to pull those resources from when you start to retire? And that's the critical part of the longevity of retirement and how you're going to stay retired.
Welcome to the Income for Life Show. If you're looking for some common sense retirement planning ideas and want to hear how we make the complex financial world simple, then listen up so you can learn how you can stay retired. The Income for Life Show is powered by Folds of Honor, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to providing educational scholarships to the families of America's fallen and disabled service members. Now, here are your hosts, Matt Nelson and Nick Schilling.
Welcome to the Income for Life Show, powered by our friends and family at Folds of Honor. And as we're sitting here today, Nick, and we're going to be going through these two topics today, before we jump into to these topics and introduce these to all of our listeners, tell me a little bit about how your week has been going and how things in your world.
Week's been going well. Week's been going really well. Excited, another hot week here in Kansas.
It is going to be a hot week.
Got
like
some
heat
thunderstorms
warnings and stuff.
Yeah, it's we can't complain, but it's always fun to notice the weather change here.
That is true, and we absolutely know when there's going to be a weather change. Just this morning, we had some pretty good thunderstorms here, and then I think by either this afternoon or tonight, it's supposed to be back up to almost 100 degrees. So
exactly.
Welcome to the Midwest.
Exactly. We got the Olympics just closed out.
Olympics are done. Yep.
And it's unbelievable that NFL football, the Hall of Fame game, already started this past week.
And fantastic. I mean, this right now is the beginning of my favorite time of the year.
Yeah.
Because we have fall weather that's going to be hopefully creeping in here in the next month or so. We got the football season, both college and NFL, that's getting ramped up. We're going to have the exciting baseball that's coming here pretty soon. So this is the beginning, I should say, of my favorite time of year.
Correct.
And as we jump in today here on the Income for Life Show, if you're new to the Income for Life Show, thank you very much for tuning in with us today. Of course, every one of our shows and our podcasts are archived on our website at incomeforlife.org. So if you're driving down the road listening on one of our podcast affiliates, you can absolutely go check us out on our website at incomeforlife.org and just simply click on the Income for Life Show, and you can listen to any one of our podcasts that are stored and archived right there. And as our existing listeners know, what we always like to do here on our show is give common sense ideas and strategies about how people can stay retired. And Nick, we talk about this all the time about how retiring is easy. 10,000 people retire per day in this country. We know this as a statistical fact. Yet staying retired is always the difficult part because people are living longer. There's obviously longevity concerns. There's medical concerns. There's market risk and volatility concerns, especially right now with this COVID pandemic going on that we were originally trying to get out of, and now it sounds like we're back into it. So making sure that you can stay retired is the key. Wouldn't you agree?
It's a big difference. Retiring is just a choice. You can retire at 27 if you have the money or whenever you want to. Staying retired takes a plan.
Absolutely.
And it takes a structure to be able to do it. And that plan, one of the topics we're going to talk about today, needs to be custom to your family, your circumstance, and what you want retirement to be. It's bigger than just a decision of, I want to retire at 65. How are you going to do it? What's that going to look like? And what's that plan going to be to walk you through that retirement as easily and comfortably as possibly can?
Absolutely. And as we have our two topics that we're going to be talking about today, just absolutely flow right into that idea about having that customized plan and having that ability to have a guaranteed income stream in retirement. And the very first topic that we're going to discuss today is titled Retirement Plan Customization is King. So we're going to go through the 6, ideas or discussions about about how a retirement plan customization is king. And then we also are going to jump into our second topic of the day, which is the 4 important retirement statistics worth understanding. So we're going to kind of parlay both of those together because they both fit together really well. And then, like we normally do, we have a really neat IFL mailbag question of the day that came in from Holly and Charlotte that we will then discuss here in a minute as well. But again, Nick, our first topic that we want to jump into, again, retirement plan customization is king. Now, most people understand that customized retirement plan is a much better than the one-size-fits-all approach that we often hear that some people are being offered or some people that have actually implemented. And yet, some people don't have a plan that is truly customized. So let's talk about some of the things that need to be considered whenever you're building a truly customized retirement plan. And the first one, you kind of hit on it just a moment ago, and it's the planned retirement age. There's so many people out there that maybe when they are younger, they say something to the tune of, I want to retire when I turn 65.
Correct.
And then they get to 63, 64, and they're like, we maybe need to revisit that. So let's talk about this first one of the 6 that we're going to talk about here, and it's planned retirement age.
The first one I think is critical in the fact that, again, retirement being a choice, you can choose to retire at any time. You can go early retirement right when you can get Social Security or even before that, or you can wait and delay. It really comes down to you can't choose an age. You can't really choose when you're going to retire until you've set that plan in place. You've gone through a customized conversation with an advisor and structured that retirement income. Where are you going to pull resources from? How are you going to pull those resources from when you start to retire? And that's the critical part of the longevity of retirement and how you're going to stay retired, as we talk about, which is far more important than choosing to retire. So you can't pick your retirement age until you've set that plan, until you've had that discussion of, well, when do we want to retire? What needs, goals, and wants do we have throughout retirement? Then we can structure a plan, income first, guaranteed income first, around how that plan's going to react when we choose to retire and how that's going to keep us staying retired throughout our time.
Well, if you're sitting there and you're listening right now, I think everybody that is listening would understand that. They would be like, okay, yeah, I would love to retire at 45.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean I can,
Correct.
right? So sitting down with a group like Income for Life and you and I, Nick, where our primary goal, our primary focus is, okay, let's set up your guaranteed income for life plan. What do you have available that can be converted into a guaranteed income stream for the rest of your life? Let's start there. And
Correct.
Then we do the math. We always talk about how retirement planning is an elementary mathematical equation, as long as you know where the numbers line up inside the equation.
Correct.
So if you know your numbers and you know how much guaranteed income can produce at set age, whatever age it is, then that's the key to making sure that maybe I got to wait a year. Maybe I got to work a couple more years. Maybe we can do it now.
Correct.
Knowing that is the key. So a planned retirement age is strictly up to not only your goals, but it's how much guaranteed income can you receive at said age.
Correct.
So if you can handle that and you can do that, then you're good to go. So that's number 1 on the retirement plan customization is king list is planned retirement age. So let's go ahead, Nick, and jump into number 2 on this list. And this is one that kind of tails in with number 1, and it's lifestyle and income needs. So just kind of what we said, some people's lifestyle are going to be different than your next door neighbor. Everybody's going to be different on what they want to do when it comes to their retirement plan and what sort of lifestyle they want to have in retirement. And it comes down to, do you have the guaranteed income to do or to manage that said lifestyle?
That's exactly it. And this really comes down to, this one is critical when it comes to the customization of your plan, because it comes down to a very detailed discussion with your advisor and your support structure, other family members, other advisors, from tax people and everything else. What are your goals? What are your needs? What are your objectives in retirement? What do we need to do to be able to structure that lifestyle? Because everybody's different. Doesn't matter if you have the same statement balance in your retirement accounts. If I want to do different things in retirement than you, Matt, my plan is going to be completely different than yours. And we typically walk people through kind of what we call a goal-based retirement planning discussion. What are your goals? What are the priority of those goals? So it really comes down to a really deep discussion of what do you envision retirement being? What are the goals, needs, and objectives that you want to tackle in retirement to stay retired? And then how do we prioritize those goals? Which ones do you need to tackle? Which ones are just, if we have something left over, we want to be able to do this? Or if we have a really good retirement nest egg and the market works in our favor, what do we want to do with that extra? That prioritization conversation is critical to the customization of your retirement plan.
Oh, absolutely. And even in one of our manuals that we've even discussed in previous shows, one of our manuals that we have titled Preparing for Retirement, Ways to Create Your Retirement Paycheck, in the back of that manual, which if you do not have, you can absolutely give us a call at 888-228-8814 and just request that manual to be sent to you, and we'll just email it or mail it to you right away. But in the back of that manual, we have a neat little worksheet where it talks about required income versus lifestyle income. And a lot of times we call that the have-to money or versus the want-to money.
Correct.
So on the required income, that's the things that you have to have, mortgage, electricity bill,
Yep.
insurance bills, things like that. Those list of things that you have to have money for every single month. And then the lifestyle could be, I like to give to my church.
Yep.
I want to travel. I like to get on our boat every weekend.
We want to
Things
buy an
like
RV
that.
and we
want to
Yep.
travel across the country, go see the kids, whatever. On that lifestyle side of those things, we rank those 1 to 5 typically, and anything that's 4 or higher, then that's pretty important to you. So
Yes.
you should work that in to your guaranteed income. And the others, you can kind of, massage it around it and kind of work it that way. But lifestyle and income needs is huge. And again, in that manual, give us a call and get that manual, because the worksheet in the back of that will really help you tremendously.
It really does. And everybody has their own unique situation. Your kids and family members may be spread across the country, so it's going to cost you more to go visit those friends and relatives that you want to do. Others, maybe it's more local, so it's going to be less expensive to do those things, no matter how much money you have. We got to bake that into the equation and the conversation to understand how you want to live your lifestyle. Then we can start to structure the income around that and what's needed to make that happen throughout the longevity of your retirement lifestyle.
Absolutely. So again, number 2 of this list of retirement plan customization is king. Number 2, lifestyle and income needs. Now let's go ahead and jump into number 3, because I think this is one that everybody battles with, and it's risk tolerance. Okay, how much risk are you willing to take in your retirement plan to get a said goal or to get a certain type of a return? So risk tolerance is a big thing when it comes to customization.
Exactly. And it really comes down to when we're talking about investing for retirement, when you start looking at long-term 20, 30 years in retirement, then we got to say how long will our retirement assets last? Some of that money is going to be in the market. And if you don't have a plan, maybe all of your money is going to be in the market, subject to the volatility, ups and downs. And if your plan isn't guaranteed, your retirement income lifestyle is not guaranteed, and you're wanting to pull 4% off, if you're having to increase your risk to make that 4% happen, all of a sudden that's when things can go bad.
You can get in trouble real quick doing that.
Correct. So we like to think of, risk tolerance as an upfront conversation as to how is your risk tolerance going to change from accumulation to distribution when you have to start using your funds. Because you can take as much risk as your stomach and your heart and your head allows when you're accumulating resources, when you're working and funding these accounts. But when you start to pull money from those accounts, it changes that on its head.
Oh, every time, because whenever you're pulling money from those accounts and at the same time you're not receiving a paycheck anymore.
Correct.
Because you're retired, then you could really get in trouble. So that's why a lot of our clients, whenever they come to us, they say things like, well, I don't want to take on any risk anymore. I want completely out of the market. Okay, maybe, that maybe will work for you, but let's do the math. Let's do the numbers. And we, as we talk about all the time here on the Income for Life show, we start with that income plan. Let's set up that guaranteed income plan. So how much guaranteed income do you need every month?
Correct.
That's the number. You need to find your own number about, okay, here's our bills, here's how much we need every single month, and then a little bit more for the play stuff like we talked about. But here's our number. Okay, well, what if it only takes a fraction of your total nest egg to accomplish that goal?
Yep.
Well, that frees up the rest of that money to do what you want to do. So now your risk tolerance for that extra money may be different now because you have your guaranteed income set over here.
Yes.
So that's what we do here at Income for Life is we blend all of that together and start off with, okay, you need $5,000 a month guaranteed income for the two of you for the rest of your life. Okay, you're going to have $2,000 of that come from Social Security. So we got a $3,000 a month gap here that we got to fill.
Correct.
And then we fill that, and that's with X amount of dollars to do that. Now you got the remaining money. Maybe you can get a little bit riskier with that if you want.
Yep.
You don't have to by any means, but you absolutely can take advantage of some opportunities knowing you got this bird in hand income already set up.
That's exactly it. And then it adds flexibility into discovering what your true risk tolerance is, and that shift from earning into retirement is a whole emotional and fiscal and financial shift. And another concept that we toss in there with our discussions with clients is, depending on your financial situation, your risk tolerance can vary over time.
Oh, yeah.
But your risk capacity, how much can you put at risk, depending on the size of your nest egg, the lifestyle that you want to live, the income needs that you have, and the age you want to retire. If you don't have a big enough nest egg, your capacity, even if you're open to it, you got a gambler's mentality and you say, let it ride in the stock market, you might not have the capacity to take that risk and live the lifestyle you want. So it's a conversation between what's your tolerance? Let's really quantify that so we can get it into a structure that this plan can work. And then what's your capacity? What numbers do you have? What's that nest egg? How much can we divide up into guaranteed income versus want to stuff? And figure out what your retirement plan is going to look like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the risk tolerance is number 3 on these retirement plan customization is king topics that we are going through. And if you want to sit down with Nick and I or just have a conversation over the phone, we of course encourage you to do this because that risk tolerance is the big one for a lot of people. So if you're like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense, but I don't know where my numbers are. I don't know what my risk capacity is.
We've heard that a million times.
We hear that all the time is we hear people say, all of this sounds amazing, guys. We love what you're talking about on the Income for Life show, but how does this work with us? How does this apply with us? Give us a call at 888-228-8814 or shoot us an email to info@incomeforlife.org, and we'll set up a time to talk to you over the phone and just go through our thoughts and ideas. And I would say, 95% of the people that we go through this exercise with come back saying, well, man, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. That makes more sense than I was expecting. So definitely, if you're interested in that, just give us a call, and we'll absolutely walk you through it. Now let's go ahead and jump into number 4 of these customization topics, and this is one that is touchy for some people, and it is family longevity and health history. Again, family longevity and health history. There's a lot of medical issues out there with a lot of people, especially right now with COVID going on. A lot of people are hypersensitive, especially retirees that are sadly more vulnerable in today's world when it comes to the COVID virus. So family longevity and health history is a big one whenever you're customizing your retirement plan.
I think this one hits customization on the head.
Oh, yes.
Doesn't matter if you have the same goals, needs, and wants, and even the same nest egg. Depending on your family history, your current health could change everything. You may need long-term care or in-home health quicker than somebody else, or not. Your longevity, your family history might be significantly longer than other people's. Plan for the worst and hope for the best. So we have to make that plan be able to be dynamic and structured for your custom situation, not your neighbors.
Absolutely.
Your family needs, goals, and wants, not your friends.
And there's an interesting kind of a rule out there, a little a little mathematical equation that a lot of people have heard of that's called the rule of 100 that kind of applies here when it comes to the longevity and health history. If you're not familiar with the rule of 100, go back to some of our videos here on incomeforlife.org, and we have a video discussing the rule of 100. But the math is pretty simple. You take the number 100 and subtract your age out of it. And the number that you're left with is the percentage of your assets that should be at risk. So the idea is the older you get, the less risky you should be.
Yep.
Now, what I tell people all the time is I understand the rule of 100, and I know how simple that is to do the math. But the flaw of the rule of 100 is that it assumes you're going to live to be 100. So this family longevity, you determine what your rule of 100 is. Maybe yours is a rule of 90. Maybe yours is a rule of 110. Who knows? Maybe you have extensive longevity in your family, or maybe you don't. So use the rule of 100 as a guide,
Yep.
but then you start your starting point based on what number you feel comfortable. And usually it's 92, 94, rarely is it 100, but I can understand how that would apply.
Great point. Those rules of thumb for investing or retirement or any of those things, the 4% rule, the rule of 100, that's a starting point for a conversation. Then it goes from there to a custom conversation, getting back to when you want to retire, what your income needs are, goals, risk tolerance, risk capacity, all of those things come into making that custom conversation of how a listener may come in and say, this sounds great. What does it mean to me? That's the custom plan that we need to have. I'm not going to cover it on an open call like this, on an open show. This is to spark conversation, get some questions brewing in your head, to then we have the custom conversation and walk you through this process so we get your retirement plan, not just a generic general retirement plan.
Absolutely. So again, number 4 of these customization ideas and topics is, again, family longevity and health history. I think we all would understand that that's a not necessarily, it's just a moving target, if you would, for most people. So let's go ahead and jump into number 5 of these topics. And this is one that we hear quite a bit. It's the desire for financial legacy. So a lot of people want to leave money if they can to their loved ones or to their church or whatever, they want to do. Usually it's, I want to make sure my kids are taken care of, sort of a scenario. But that's important because that's another thing that you can customize and build into your plan that you need to take into consideration.
Oh, 100%. And lots of times this legacy, many components or legs of this legacy are while you're still living. Maybe you want to set up accounts for the grandkids to fund some education. Maybe you want to go visit more often. What do you want to do with the money that you have? It's not just what do you want to pass on death. That's a big component of it too, but it's a more holistic conversation of what do you want to do in retirement? What do you want to leave? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? And lots of times that starts way earlier than this whole process, and we need to take that into account. And as we talked about earlier on this show, that gets down to the prioritization.
Absolutely. And we have a lot of our clients, whenever we're talking to them about legacy ideas and kind of, who would you like, to receive this if you were to pass away? And the conversation is usually, like we talked about, kids and grandkids, but we're also hearing a lot of, well, yeah, but I also want to see my grandkids enjoying this money.
Correct.
I want to help pay a wedding. I want to help pay for a house. I want to do these things while I'm still alive so I can see them enjoy it.
Correct.
And say, thanks, Grandpa. Thanks, Grandma.
Correct.
So it's important to do.
That's all part of the legacy conversation that we have. It's not just about what do you want to have left over after you pass away. It is what legacy do you want to leave? And a lot of that comes with what do you want to do now? And then what do you want to save for later? And it really comes down to a custom conversation. And your plan needs to be dynamic enough and flexible enough, because sometimes legacy changes and your needs and wants for that money can shift a little bit over the course of time and we need to have the dynamic plan in there that's custom to you so that we can shift as needed.
Absolutely. So again, number 5 is a desire for financial legacy. Now let's go ahead and jump into the last of these 6, again, of the retirement plan customization is king topics. And this is one that we run into a lot.
Yes.
This one we see almost every time whenever somebody is visiting with us about their retirement. And it is feelings and emotions connected to your money. So let's talk about this for a little bit, because that emotional tug, that feeling of maybe fear, which is what we hear so much,
correct,
is, Matt, I cannot afford to run out of money. I have this, the emotional side of this, and the feelings connected to someone's retirement money is sometimes very drastic and aggressive.
Exactly. And this can come into feelings and emotion tied to the legacy that you want to live, but more often it can be tied to how much risk, going back to number 3, how much risk do I want to have? Do I want it all in the mattress or in the bank account? Can I have some at risk in the market searching for opportunity? But your emotions change. That's why we concentrate on, in order to calm your emotions, create some of that financial independence and freedom, income is king in retirement. The customization is king in the plan, but income, or for the plan, but income is the paramount characteristic of that plan. Once you have the income coming in and it's guaranteed, that creates some of that ease of emotions, takes the weight off your shoulders, allows us to really dig into what feelings and emotions do you have to the goals, needs, and objectives that you want, not tied to watching the chyron on the bottom of Fox or CNBC or whatever it is, watching the market go red or green.
Right.
And understanding what that's going to do to, now the market's down, it's red. I don't want to spend money. I want to cancel the vacation to go see the grandkids. I'm worried about what this is going to do to my legacy or my nest egg. Once you have your income in place, to know that your retirement budget is secure enough for you to go do it, that then takes the emotions and the feelings away and allows you to go live the lifestyle that you want.
And we talk about it all the time with the 3 C's of retirement. That's exactly what we specialize in here at Income for Life. And the 3 C's are very simple: the checkbook, the calendar, and the clock. And we talk about it on our shows all the time. Checkbook, how much is in there, right? Calendar, when per month is more money coming in?
Yep.
And the clock is, how long will that last? How long will that continue to happen? So if you know that you have another paycheck coming in next month, it absolutely relieves some of that emotion. It relieves that pressure that you were just talking about, because everybody knows when their Social Security check's coming in. We talk about
Yes.
it all the time. We always ask our clients, are you on Social Security? Yes. Okay. What day of the month do you get your Social Security check? And they tell us instantly. For example, the 21st of every month. Why do you know that date so well? Well, it's because I'm getting paid.
Yes.
And does that usually come with a sigh of relief when you see that money's there? And they're like, yeah. Okay, well, our thought here at Income for Life is, let's just do more of that.
Yes.
Let's just get more guaranteed paychecks coming in, which will absolutely relieve those scary emotions, the fearful emotions that you were just talking about, Nick, because you know for the rest of your life, you got that pension income coming in no matter what.
That's exactly it. We talk to way too many people that are, whatever the market's doing, they're checking their account, their retirement accounts, their plan every day, and they're worried about it. It is affecting the way that they view their retirement and how they can live the lifestyle that they want to. We want you to check those accounts and have fun with it, and understand that there's going to be some movements up and down with your plan, but your income is secure, your lifestyle is guaranteed, and the checking of the statement balances and doing that and seeing what's going good and what's going bad is just a conversation with your advisor, and you're doing it because it's neat. You're interested in it, not because you're worried about your lifestyle.
Absolutely. And we always tell our clients, we ask them, if there was a better way, right? If there was a better way to retire, when would you want to know about it? Well,
Tomorrow.
Right now.
Right now. Yeah.
You know, if there's a better way, when would you want to know? Well, I would like to know right now. Okay. Well, then it has to start with that guaranteed income plan. You start there. and work your way out, because that is how it's just like building a house. You start with the foundation and you build up.
Correct.
Exact same way when it comes to your retirement plan.
Listen closely, because there's a new financial tool that you need to know about. It's being described as the CD Buster. Every year, scores of people lock their money up in CDs that pay less than 1%. It's a great way to lose money safely, because you can't keep up with inflation, and that spells disaster for a retiree. So the Income for Life team is excited to announce a new multi-year guaranteed annuity that pays up to 3.1% annually and can be purchased online. It's never been easier to get this kind of return on your money, and it can be done from your smartphone or computer in just minutes. This opportunity is insured dollar for dollar, is available in 4-year or 6-year lengths, and you even get 5% free withdrawals if you need to take money out. CDs can't do that. To find out more and to get this guaranteed annuity online right now, just go to incomeforlife.org and click on the banner, or check out the link in the description of today's show.
Now, Nick, as we continue here on the Income for Life show, again powered by our friends and family at Folds of Honor, we're going to jump into our next topic of the day, which we introduced earlier in the show, and that is the 4 important retirement statistics that are worth understanding. Now, sometimes numbers, figures, and stats can go in one ear and out the other. I think that we would all agree to that. But on this particular segment, we're going to break down those 4 important statistics that are worth taking a moment to maybe try to understand. They'll underscore some very real problems people face when prepping for retirement. So let's go ahead and look at these and explore some of these and talk about maybe some solutions for them, okay?
Perfect.
So the first one that we want to talk about on these stats that are worth understanding is only 17% of American workers describe themselves as very confident that they'll have enough money in retirement. 17% of American workers describe themselves as very confident that they'll have enough money in retirement. Why do you think only 17% feel that way?
Well, I'm guessing the 17% in this survey obviously could be wealthy, but I would put more of it that they have a plan.
Absolutely.
It's not about the amount of statement balance that you have and how large your nest egg is. These 17% probably have their retirement plan locked in. They've been having this conversation for years of what that retirement is going to look like, how they're going to initiate that retirement, where their income is going to come from. So the 83% that aren't as confident probably have some hope so. Fingers crossed. I don't know when I'm going to retire. I don't know what it is. There's some instability in that custom retirement plan that we talked about earlier, because they haven't sat down and really figured that out with an advisor. I'm guessing these 17 have, and they feel really comfortable with where that income's going to come from.
And that 83 that isn't very confident in their plan, it might be a scenario where they just don't know their numbers yet. They have a 401k or a 403b.
Yep.
Maybe they have some savings, maybe in a brokerage account or in the bank, whatever. They have these assets, but they don't know what those can do for them yet.
Yes.
It's just a number right now. And okay, I got X amount in this. Okay, but then they sit down and they're like, okay, well, if I retired at this age, what would my, guaranteed income be? If I retired here, what would my guaranteed income be? So when you can still be working and build this plan. There's so many people that come to us and say, I retired last month, I need to build my plan.
Yeah.
You can do that. That's fine. But it's usually more advantageous to say, I'm looking to retire in about 6-7 years. What do I need to do to make sure that this is all set up and good to go?
Correct.
That's the smarter way to go. And I would guess those 17% that are very confident did their plan years before they were actually going to retire.
That's exactly it. You need to build that foundation of the financial and retirement house that you're doing as early as possible and have some flexibility in that to have that conversation. That's what breeds confidence. That's what builds having a very confident retirement. And you know where that 3 C's are going to come from, and you know that the statement balance doesn't really matter. The income coming into the checkbook does, and all of a sudden now that it alleviates that pressure, and going into retirement, whenever you decide to pull that trigger, that you're going to be able to stay retired and not just hope the volatility of the market works in your favor.
Absolutely. So again, number one of these 4 important retirement stats worth understanding, only 17% of American workers describe themselves as very confident that they'll have enough money in retirement. Let's go ahead and jump into number 2 here, Nick, on this list. And this one is the average 65-year-old woman has a life expectancy of 20.7 more years. Let's just call it 21, round up.
Yep.
The average 65-year-old woman has a life expectancy of 21 more years. Kind of goes into what we talked about earlier in the show about the longevity and the worries and the concerns about that. Also, health will come into play with that.
Yep.
So that stat right there, 21 more years after the age of 65, little different than it was 40, 50 years ago.
And that's exactly it. It's really breaking down that longevity is critical. Understanding how we're going to have that plan, that custom plan to you, because that's an average of 86 of a person retiring, a female retiring at 65, but you could be one that's 106.
Right.
How are you going to have a custom plan to you, your family history, your longevity, how healthy you are in this, so that your plan is structured to fit your lifestyle, not just the average. The averages kind of give us a framework of longevity is increasing, so we need to plan for it. But your longevity could outpace that another 20 years.
Right.
So that's when we need to get into the custom plan, the custom conversation, and make sure your income is not just a generic, well, we're going to pull 4% off.
Right.
That's not guaranteed. We need to get a guaranteed paycheck coming in for the rest of your life, no matter how long that lasts. And that's the foundation of a good retirement plan.
And the idea of retiring at 65 is still a viable option, but it's not as realistic as it used to be, because even Social Security now is, the age for retirement is going up, and it is going to continue
Correct.
to go up. So back whenever Social Security was created, when the retirement age was 65, the average life expectancy was 67. So it's really not the same as it was 50 years ago.
No.
So
longevity is critical. Even the IRS is pulling, the government is saying you can delay touching your retirement accounts and start before you have to start taking those required minimum distributions.
Because they see it too.
They see the longevity as a huge risk for most people. So these stats give a framework, but the custom plan comes into what you need.
And the stats really could tell you kind of where things are going.
Yes.
We talked about that on one of our other shows before about how you don't want to fight the government. You just want to go with the government. So the government is coming out with new numbers and new stats. Understand how that works and be able to go with it. So if you are, looking at this stat, okay, 65-year-old woman, you got about another 21 more years. Well, you need to understand that there's a good chance that you're not going to be working anymore in retirement. So where's that paycheck going to come from? You have to be able to have that set up, and that's exactly what we do here at Income for Life. Now let's go ahead and jump into number 3. Kind of dovetails into this one, number 2 as well, but it's 16.5% of our country's population is over the age of 65. 16.5%. You'd probably be sitting there and saying, well, okay, it's only 16.5%. That's a big number
Yes.
of over the age of 65. And that's just going to continue to grow.
That trend line and the slope of that trend line is only increasing.
Oh, yes.
And what that comes down to is a lot of speculation about Social Security and less taxpayers and less taxpayers paying
into Social Security.
And keeping that. How viable and fiscally responsible is that? But that trend line is only increasing. So we need to make sure that your plan has a well-rounded retirement income structure, because that number, if you're part of that group already or going to be approaching it, that number is only going to increase, and we got to make sure your plan is set.
And the pressure on the government and the pressure on Social Security is very, very high right now.
All of those entitlements.
How are we going to, from the government side, how are we going to make sure that Social Security is viable given how many more people are getting on Social Security and how long they are on Social Security? Because when longevity is now went from 5 years after age 65 to 25 years, the government is on the hook to make sure that you're getting paid through Social Security. So that is why you see so many of these opportunities within the government to delay to make it longer before you can get on Social Security, because they see it too. They see how this is working. So if you don't have a plan set up in conjunction with Social Security, you could be in trouble real quick. And I think that's on that particular stat, that is what that is screaming to me.
Exactly.
Now let's go ahead and jump into number 4, and this is our fourth of, again, these important retirement statistics that are worth understanding. And this one is important, and this is a big one. The average retiree will spend $295,000 on out-of-pocket medical expenses over the course of their retirement. This figure was more than $80,000 lower just 2 or 3 years ago. So if you're looking at this and you're like, okay, out-of-pocket medical expenses, I'm going to be on Medicare, for example, hopefully, maybe get a Medicare supplement, things like that. $295,000 average out-of-pocket medical expenses in their retirement. This is already $80,000 higher than it was 2 or 3 years ago. What does that scream?
Well, I mean, it screams a lot of things. And it screams that the longevity that we're talking about in retirement, one of those things that we talk about is hopefully everybody is happy and healthy and vibrant all the way till 86, 87, or 107. But that's not really the way that it works out. And we've talked about it on many shows. Now it's creeping past 50% of us are going to need some sort of
care,
some sort of long-term care approach, and we need to have that flexibility in that plan. Longevity could be, well, at 77, we're in a nursing home, and we're going to have to spend the next 10, 15 years paying for that support, and you got to have that as part of your custom plan. And this trend is only increasing.
It's only getting worse.
And it seems to be increasing at almost an exponential rate, to where we are living longer, but sometimes we're not living as healthily longer. So we need to make sure that we have a structure in place to how we're going to do this, or this could completely change that legacy component that we talked about earlier in the show, and throw that in a tailspin, because you're not going to be able to have the legacy you want if this starts eating $300,000 of your retirement plan away of out-of-pocket expenses.
It's kind of the idea of those that fail to plan to fail. Sort of a scenario. These things can be remedied. These things and these concerns absolutely can be adjusted and taken care of for you. Just give us a call. We'll walk you through our ideas and strategies of how we feel like we can help you with these concerns. And once you do that, and then you have that peace of mind of knowing, okay, we can be okay through the good and the bad.
Yep.
That is the key to a successful and happy retirement.
Well, and when you start talking massive numbers like $300,000 of out-of-pocket expenses, if we can mitigate through planning 25 or 30% or 50% of that, now you're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars of out-of-pocket expenses that we can do through planning and insurance and a typical structure that you're not having to fork over, and you can have some of those needs, wants, and goals accomplished, that legacy that you're looking for, with just some planning.
You've got mail.
All right, Nick, let's go ahead and jump into the IFL mailbag here. We got a great question that came in from Holly in Charlotte. And this is one that I think applies to so many people. And that's why we like to pick a question that comes into us that we feel like can benefit a lot of people. And Holly in Charlotte really got this one really well. So thank you very much, Holly, for sending in your question. If you would like to have us answer a question to you, either just in person or on the air here at the Income for Life show, just shoot us an email to info@incomeforlife.org. Give us your question, and we will gladly answer that with you on your own, just in person, or discuss it on the air. So, Holly, thank you very much for submitting your question. And, Nick, I'm going to read this to you. Let's talk about it for a few minutes and help Holly out. Holly says, my neighbor retired 2 years ago and has decided that he needs to go back to work because money is too tight. I just retired last month, and I think we're fine, but now I'm a little worried the same thing might happen to me. How can I make sure I don't have to go back to work?
Great question.
Holly and Charlotte, fantastic question, and that is a perfect question of so many people that have came to us here at Income for Life and talked to us. Holly, your question could be echoed all across the country.
Holly's in the majority I would guess, of people.
Yes.
Because we get this question all the time, and it's not an unneeded worry. People, as soon as you start thinking and you get somebody that says, well, I need to go back to work, then all of a sudden you start evaluating yourself and you start to reflect and say, are we good? And if you haven't had the plan that we've talked about earlier in this show, you haven't created that custom retirement income plan, that's when you can start to have that worry actually take over your emotional health and everything else. So you need to sit down with somebody like us at Income for Life or anybody local that you have and really dig into this conversation. Even if you have a plan, you can double check that plan.
Oh, absolutely.
You can get a second opinion on that plan. But if you don't have a plan and you have a hope-so plan, you're just hoping that the market keeps going up at all-time highs and keeps rising at a 45-degree angle like it has been for the last decade plus, well, that's not really a plan, because the market's not going to continue to do this for the rest of your retirement life. If you just retired last month, we need to have that plan baked in, and you need to understand and feel very comfortable to where your next paycheck, your next personal pension is going to come from, and we can create that. But as long as you don't have that plan in place, those worries are going to creep in when anything happens, when your neighbor says something, when the market drops, when the Fed comes out and says something that's like different than what anybody expected. That's when those worries creep in, and we try to mitigate those worries. And as we said it in the statistics, our goal, if only 17% are confident, our goal is to increase that percentage, increase the Hollies out there to make them feel very confident in their retirement so they don't have anything to worry about, and retirement can be fun and exciting the way that they want it to be.
And something that I found interesting, Holly, and thank you for submitting this question, but one thing that I found interesting about her question is she submitted this to us because of something that she experienced or something happened. In this scenario, it was the neighbor.
A neighbor.
That said, oh, I might be in trouble. It's kind of like whenever somebody didn't go get an oil change in their car, and then they're like, oh, I had transmission problems because I didn't go get it fixed, and they're like, well, maybe I should go get my transmission looked at. So that doesn't happen to me. Correct. So Holly had a thing happen to her, which is the neighbor had a concern. So Holly's like, well, I better check on this. That's how a lot of people approach these things. Is it's kind of the, oh, this won't happen to me sort of a scenario. But then they hear it from somebody else, a family member, a neighbor in this scenario, whatever it might be, and they're like kind of trigger something in their brain of, I better check on that so that doesn't happen to me. So if you're listening to that right now and that's you, then just give us a call. And just like with Holly, we'll gladly go through those ideas. We'll build a plan for you and see if what you have available can absolutely take care of you in retirement. And if it can't, we'll give you some advice and ideas of how you can get there.
Correct. And if you do have a plan, we're more than happy to double check that plan.
Oh, because I don't know how many times, Nick, we've actually sat down with someone where they said, well, yeah, I have a plan. Okay, let's just take a look. And then we look at it, and it's a lot of hope so. Yeah. There's not a lot of no so in there. So a little adjustment can go a long way. So, Holly, thank you very much for submitting that question to us to the IFL mailbag. And if you do have a question, go ahead and submit it to info@incomeforlife.org, and we'll gladly answer that question either on the air or directly back to you in person. Now, Nick, as we wrap up today's show, like we always do, we like to talk a little bit about kind of what's going on in the world of sports. We do it all the time, and if you've listened to any of our shows, we always try to wrap up our ending of our shows with something within maybe some of our local sports teams. Like we always tend to try to invite, our world champion MVP Pat Mahomes from the Kansas City Chiefs on our show. Seems like we always just run out of time and we're not able to get to Pat. And right now he's clearly pretty busy with the preseason.
It's and we talked about it in the lead-in. Right now, after once every 4, now 5 years, the Olympics wrapped up. It was cool to see that. Viewing was a little bit different than we were accustomed to with all the streaming services and the time change. But it was really fun to see the United States win the medal count, win the gold medal count, silver and bronze, and the overall. It was great. Congratulations to all those people. And now we get into the fun time of year. School's coming back pretty quick. College is coming back. NFL's kicking off with all their preseason stuff. College football, which you and I like, Matt, are going to kick off here pretty quick, and hopefully this new COVID stuff doesn't interrupt any of that stuff.
I hope it doesn't.
And we can have sports the way that we remember sports being, with fans and fun, and everybody's traveling and doing the stuff that they want to do.
And I just realized as well, a lot of kids are going back to school.
Yep.
A lot of kids are moving back onto campus. A lot of kids are having first day of school for the littler kids. All that's happening right now. So this time of year is just a lot of fun.
Correct.
And there's so many things. And like you just said, Nick, throwing the Olympics in there as well, since we didn't have them last year. It's just a very neat sports time. It's a very neat family time with school getting back going. And let's just all hope that this COVID fiasco is curbed, if you would, under control, and we can get back to normal as much as we can.
Exciting time.
But again, thank you very much for listening to us here on the Income for Life show. Again, powered by Folds of Honor. We appreciate you taking your time out of your busy day to listen to us today. Of course, our show is housed on our website at incomeforlife.org. And of course, we are on all of the major podcast affiliates as well. So hopefully, wherever you're listening today, you are enjoying your day. Thank you very much for your time, and bye-bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Income for Life show. If you have any questions about something we talked about today or want to get in touch with the Income for Life team, give us a call to 888-228-8814. That's 888-228-8814. You can also go online to incomeforlife.org and check the description of today's show for any relevant resources and contact information. You can also find the podcast on all major podcasting apps, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and many more locations. The Income for Life show is powered by Folds of Honor, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to providing educational scholarships to the families of America's fallen and disabled service members. For more information, visit foldsofhonor.org. Information provided on today's show is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information is obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified professional before taking any action.